In the land of Rivka, the nation is divided by something known as the Shadow Fold. It's a huge wall of darkness filled with Volker winged monsters that feed on humans. The Fold was created hundreds of years ago by the Black Heretic, a man who could summon shadows. This divide has led to years of war with feud at the nation to the north, and Shuhan, the nation to the south. Wakhan troops come in two kinds, the normal soldiers and the Jishka, who practice magic and are hated because of the sins of the heretic. A legend says that one day a Jish capable of summoning pure light will destroy the Shadow Fold and reunite the country again. In East Rivka, mapmaker Elena is discriminated against because her mother was from Shuhan. She grew up in an orphanage because the Fold ate her parents, but she still wished to cross the Fold to find a place where nobody would care about how she looks. Nowadays, Elena travels with the First Army as a cinematographer, and she's excited to see the Fold up close. Meanwhile, in Kirk, Elena's childhood friend Mol is also with the army as a tracker, but he's trying to make some extra money by boxing. Thanks to his training, he defeats his opponent easily with just a few quick moves. Suddenly, Ajisha shows up and starts manipulating the air as he taunts Mol to fight him, but the organizers immediately cancel everything because it would be an unfair match. Afterward, Mol reunites with Elena, whose unit has come to Kir to join the next mission through the mountains. However, they learn they'll soon be separated again because Mol has been assigned to go on a special mission into the Fold. Later in the evening, the cook refuses to feed Elena because she is half-Shu. Mol notices this and sneaks into Agrika's tent, knowing magic users get better fruit. As he's stealing some fresh fruit, he's discovered by Zoya, a Jisha who tries to convince him to spend the night with her. However, Mol chooses to take the fruits to Elena. The next morning, Elena decides she wants to go with Mol and makes a plan. She secretly burns the maps of their destination and makes it look like a fallen lamp. Now her whole unit is assigned to go on the trip as well. Soon, the ship enters the Fold and is surrounded by deep darkness. They keep their lights out except for a single blue lantern to avoid getting monsters' attention, and Ajish controls the wind to keep them moving. They can hear the Volker roaring in the darkness, and bursts of lightning sometimes show them the debris left by others who fail the journey. Suddenly, the blue lantern goes out and a soldier lights a normal fire lantern, causing a Volker to land behind him and drag him away with its claws. The lantern falls and starts a fire on the deck, which causes more Volker to fly over and capture crew members left and right. The soldiers try to open fire to keep them at bay, and one of the monsters drops a body on the deck, disturbing Elena. Ajisha tries to use fire magic to fight, but the Volker isn't affected and immediately kills her. Mapmaker Alexei is so scared that he jumps off the ship and runs away. Suddenly, a Volker captures Mol, so he uses a dagger to hurt the creature's leg. Elena sees this and rushes to grab a weapon, shooting the Volker and making it drop Mol before it flies away. As Elena runs to Mal's side, a Volker captures her from behind. Elena is holding onto Mal's hand, not wanting to let go, when suddenly her entire body erupts in light. In West Rivka, the soldiers assume the ship was lost when suddenly Alexei runs out of the Fold and faints. Meanwhile, in Karaj, a man is trying to pay for his bet with some coins, but he can tell they're fake and proves it by shooting them. While the man is dragged away from the gambling house, the boss reminds Jasper to keep it quiet. Seconds later, Kizzy is visited by Nage, who brings news of a job that will pay very well. A wealthy merchant is looking for a team to cross the Fold into East Rivka and retrieve something. Nage had tried following him to find out what his objective is, but the merchant had put up extra security. Some rivals also want this contract, so Kez must find a way to be chosen. The next day, Kizzy takes Jasper and Nage around the city to gather information and learns that the merchant is looking for a heart trender, a Jisha who can force people to tell the truth. In the meantime, Kaz's rival, Pekka, and his men appear at the office of a club manager and immediately hit him to capture him. Pekka knows that the club has a streetwalker with heartrender powers and threatens him to make him lend the girl to him. The manager refuses and gets killed. But when Pekka's henchmen look for the heart trender, he discovers she's already gone. It turns out Kaz has already hired the heart trender. They go to the merchant's house and pay the security guard with fake money. By the time he realizes he was scammed, they are already inside. After some negotiation, the merchant Drezan introduces them to Alexei, who told everyone a bright light destroyed all the Volker. This is hard to believe, so Dresden wants a real story. Using Harto's power, they make Alexei confess that he saw the legendary sun summon a clean the area of Volker. After Alexei tells them Elena's name, Dresden shoots him and then gives Cass's group the mission. They have until sunrise to figure out a way to cross the fold and return safely with Elena. Meanwhile, in East Rivka, the rest of the ship comes with Elena and Moll unconscious on the deck and a few survivors. The flashback reveals that when Ajisha went to their orphanage to test the kids for magic, Moll was injured and couldn't participate. Elena wasn't interested in going to Ajisha's school if it meant leaving Moll behind, so she hid with him to avoid the test. In a prison, Moll is taken to a medic while Elena is checked on by a healer who uses her healing magic before taking her to see General Kurian. After hearing the story from the other survivors, Kurgan puts her through the test by cutting her arm. Everyone watches in shock as a beam of blinding light comes out of her, confirming she's the Sun Summoner. It's immediately decided that Elena will be sent to the Little Palace for training, and she isn't allowed to say goodbye to Moll before she's pushed into a carriage. During the trip, the carriage stops when it finds the road blocked. 2 soldiers go to investigate only to suddenly be shot dead. At that moment, a bunch of witch hunters from the north show up and surround the carriage as they open fire. The Jishka immediately use their powers to defend themselves, but the fire and air users quickly get shot down. There are 2 Jisha that manage to kill a few enemies by twisting them from inside. But soon they discover there is a sharpshooter nearby, and they run to hide, only to be hit by a smoke bomb. Meanwhile, Elena is still hiding in the carriage, which also gets hit by a smoke bomb. An enemy suddenly opens the door and drags her out, hitting her when she tries to defend herself. When he's about to kill her, Kurian shows up and uses shadow magic to kill him. All the other attackers immediately run away, scared of Kurian. Afterward, Elena rides with Kurian, and eventually arrives at Little Palace, the safest building in the country. Once Elena is alone in her new room, she allows herself to have a breakdown and she grabs a letter opener to keep under her pillow. In carriage, Cass is visited by Pekka and his men who immediately beat him up. Pekka tells Cass to abandon the mission or he'll kill him as he did with the manager. Then he leaves. Afterward, Cass discovers a woman from East Rift gambling in his gambling house. So he makes his guards bring her in to ask her how she crossed the fold. She explains someone called the conductor flew her and her daughter in some special transport. She doesn't know where to find him, but an artist named Poppy. Meanwhile, Enige is called by her owner, Madame Helen, who somehow knows about Dresden's job and makes a surprising proposition. She'll settle Enage's debt if Enage kills a man for her. She implies that the man is nothing but a human trafficker like the one who sold Enage and hands her an address where he can be found. Because of her religion, Enage doesn't kill, but she can't go on the mission if Helen doesn't free her. So she agrees to do it. While Cass gets the location of the conductor from Poppy, Enage surprises his target and ties him up while looking through his paperwork for proof of child trafficking. The guy explains he's just a smuggler who frees people from war, but he doesn't deal with slaves. Enage doesn't believe him, and when she's about to kill him, Kay shows up to stop her, almost getting stabbed by her blade. It turns out this guy is the conductor and Helen knew it. She tricked Enage to sabotage her mission. Since obviously they can't kill the conductor, Casey offers Helen the deed to his gambling house, saying he'll either pay her in full forage after they're done with the job or she'll get to keep the club for good. Sometime later, a giant glowing stag appears for Elena, only for her to wake up. Suddenly, a bunch of maids enter her room and start preparing her to meet the king. The Jisha tailor Jenny uses her magic to emphasize Elena's beauty and get rid of any scars, but Elena asks to keep the one on her hand. Once she's ready, Kurian takes her to meet the king and queen of Rivka, and the queen immediately makes racist comments. Then, Kurian fills the room with shadow and grabs her wrist to amplify her power, causing light to erupt out of her and create a bubble of brightness around her and Kurgan. Everyone claps and the king gives Kurgan permission to train Elena personally. While all the other Jisha give her a warm welcome, Sawyer pretends to hug her while whispering racist things in her ear. The next day, Elena is taken to her first training session. She remembers some of the basics Moll taught her and challenges Zoya to a fight. But Zoya has more training and easily overpowers her. When Zoya makes a naughty joke about Moll, Elena gets angry and punches her in the face. So Zoya retaliates with wind magic, knocking her out. Elena sees the stag again before waking up. Afterward, Elena goes to the library because she remembers a fairy tale about a stag. Thus she runs into the opera at the king's spiritual advisor. He tells her the real story of one of the first Jisha called the Bonesmith who wanted to amplify the power of magic he uses. He used his magic ability to create animals from his own bones and infuse them with power. One of those animals was the stag. If a Jisha kills one of these animals and melds a piece of its bones to theirs, the Jisha's power will be greatly enhanced. Then the opera walks her to a cave where Alina meets Bulgur for her next lesson. Baghra hits Alina on the shoulder to make her activate her power to no avail and points out she was only able to do it for the king because Kirigan enhanced her power. Then she kicks Alina out, saying she can't train her until Alina believes she truly is the Sun Summoner. Meanwhile, in west of Rivka, a Hartrander named Nini uses her magic to avoid paying at a hotel and gets a nice room in the process. She's waiting for the conductor because she can get him into Little Palace, but she's found instead by a group of witch hunters from the north. She tries to use her magic to kill them, but Ebola is thrown through the window and captures her. Nina tries her best to defend herself, but there are too many men who quickly overpower and kidnap her. She's sent to a ship and chained up with other Jishas to be executed in the north. By the time the conductor and the others get there, it's too late. However, Cass refuses to give up and says they'll figure out how to get into the Little Palace once they get there. To cross the fold, a conductor will require 3 items. 20 lb of alabaster coal, a pack of Mitchell Jira, and a goat. The team splits to gather the TMs, and while CZ gets a goat, he notices the conductor slipping into the tent of a West Rifkin Revolution rally, which makes him suspicious. Later that night, the conductor leads Cass and Nenage to train tracks near the border of the fold, where he has a small train engine. Suddenly, they hear some shots and see Jesper running toward them while a group of men are chasing him. It turns out he gambled the money and lost. So he stole the coal and now the owners are after him. Thankfully, Jesper boards the train with the others before he gets shot. And as they get ready to leave, the coal owners try to get closer only to step on a bunch of hidden mines. The train manages to take off, but after traveling for a while, they're found by the Volker. Usually, the conductor outruns them by going faster, but they can't now because Jesper brought 16 pounds of coal instead of 20. There's a pike in front of the train that kills a few Volker as they pass by, causing their blood to slip inside. A Volker accidentally gets stuck on the pike, and now the train has extra weight, so their chances of making them are lowering. Jesper is terrified and nervous, so the conductor makes him grab the goat because it's Hero's emotional support. At the moment, Avora lands on top of the train and starts breaking it, but Jesper has calmed down thanks to the goat and starts firing very accurate shots that scare all the monsters away. Unfortunately, Avora lands again on the train and makes a halt to peek inside, but Jesper concentrates and makes a perfect shot to send it away. The extra boost they got from the creature successfully sends the train out of the fold. Sometime later, it's revealed that Alina and Mol have been writing to each other, but the letters have not reached either of them. One afternoon, a general mentions that Kirigan is offering a trip to the Little Palace as a reward to any soldier who can find more of a stag. Mol recognizes the stag drawing as one of Alina's and volunteers to do it, teaming up with 2 friends using Mal's expert tracker skills. They track the stag north into the mountains that separate Rivka from Fuda. Soon they enter into Furin territory and are found by the enemy. Mol fights against a man with a knife and after lots of struggle, he disarms the guy and kills him with his own weapon. Then he tries to help his friend only to get an arrow to the leg. Thankfully, his friends help each other and manage to win the fight. However, 2 more soldiers are hiding in the trees and suddenly open fire with a machine gun. Mol gets hit in the shoulder and faints, dreaming about his early days in the army. He heard that the quartermaster said something racist to Alina, so he hit the man with a bottle. Mol was put in a cell next to Alina's, and they noticed that they now had matching scars. Seconds later, Mol wakes up and quickly shoots the last 2 soldiers who just finished killing his friends. As he cries in grief, Mol hears a noise and suddenly sees the stag among the trees. A few hours later, he's back at the base all safe and sound. Sometime later, Alina goes back to Bra to be properly trained. Baghra is very strict and keeps hitting her as she fails, assigning her lots of reading and correcting her sleeping habits. As days pass, Alina's magic starts improving, and she manages to summon a small ball of light. One afternoon, Baghra gives Alina some tea that makes her revisit an old memory. On the day of the Jisha test at the orphanage, she and Mol were caught when they tried to hide and brought to do the test anyway. Maul couldn't get tested because he was injured, so Elena cheated by getting an injury in secret, causing the test to come up negative. Dagger thinks it's just more evidence of Elena holding herself back for the sake of others. Later that night, Elena goes for a walk around the little palace and finds Kurian still worrying over his war plans. He admits that he feels hopeless and alone as the shadows get worse around him. So Elena grabs his hand, bringing light around them. It looks like they might kiss, but Elena leaves before anything happens. The next day, Elena checks with the mailman, but there are still no letters from Maul. Assuming he's forgotten about her, she finally embraces her destiny and runs to Bra to show her a big ball of light. When she returns to her room, she asks Jenny to get rid of her hand scar. In East Rifka, Cass's group learns that the Royal Archives has a copy of the Little Palace blueprints. So, the trio plans a heist while the conductor is tasked with finding a contact that can help them. Kush shows up at the Royal Archives pretending to be a sculptor who needs the dimensions of the Little Palace for a commission he has to do for the king. When the clerk goes to check the blueprints, drops a piece of phosphorus that follows the man and creates a secret trail. In the evening, Ispra pretends to be a guard to turn off the lights in the archives, allowing to sneak inside. She follows the glow-in-the-dark phosphorus and finds the blueprints, which she makes a copy of. Before she can leave, the lights are turned back on and a guard appears, so she carefully sneaks around to avoid being seen. Then, the guard closes the door behind him, but thankfully, Yapper shoots the lever when the main clock strikes 2, so the shot isn't heard. Inage gets to escape and reunites with Cass, who is also dressed as a guard. Afterward, they meet with the conductor, who has befriended a group of circus performers that will be part of the winter fete at the palace. The conductor caused an accident to make the aerial artist fall and get hurt. Then he introduced himself as a manager with the perfect replacement. Inage impresses everyone with her athletic skills and she's accepted as the new aerial artist. Then Jesper shows off his shooting skills by firing off a card from Inig's mouth while looking in the mirror. He's accepted into the circus as a new act. So now Cass will have to find his own way in. The next day, the circus is accepted into the royal grounds. His dresses as a guard and snoops around the palace, discovering there's a secret door leading to a fitting room for the geisha. Meanwhile, Elena gets ready for her big debut. A fabricator geisha called David brings her special gloves made at Krian's request, which will amplify her powers. Elena tests them and manages to make 2 separate beams of light, but then she gives them back and proves she can already do that by herself. Then Elena notices all the artists outside, so she convinces Jenny to let her have one last day to enjoy herself before joining the war. Together with a guard, the girls go to see the circus do their tricks and Jesper overhears them talking. Now he knows the face of their target. Later, Elena chats with Kurian, telling him she isn't nervous about her debut because she finally feels like she belongs. Then she kisses him. When the party finally begins, Kiss pretends to be a guard again and gets a stain on his uniform on purpose to get replacements, which he gives to Aige and the conductor so they can sneak around as well. A fire geisha entertains the public with some flames, but soon Elena takes over the stage. After Kurian fills the room with darkness, she summons 2 balls of light and does some tricks before lighting up the room. Everyone is impressed and bows to her as they call her a saint, including Inage. Meanwhile, the conductor uses a special stone to open the door to the fitting room and hide in it. When Elena arrives, instead of kidnapping her for Cass, he slits her throat on behalf of the rebellion. At that moment, Jenny comes in and starts fighting him, overpowering him with a few quick moves. However, the conductor shoots her and runs away only to be captured by soldiers in the hallway. Then, Jenya rushes to check on the body who turns out to be another girl with an illusion to make her look like Elena. Hiss had already known this because he saw the 2 dresses in the fitting room. That's why he sent the conductor after the fake Elena, suspecting he would betray them for his cause. At the same time, Maul arrives to give Kurian the news about the stag, but he refuses to mark the exact location on the map until he sees Elena. While Kurian goes to look for her, Maul is approached by a guard working for Bagger, who takes him into a cave and tries to kill him. So a fight ensues. After some struggle, the soldier pushes Maul further into the cave and he discovers the body of the rider who brought him here. The soldier starts throwing knives at Maul and hurts his stomach before hitting him with a chair. Then, Maul starts fighting back with the fire poker. The soldier reveals she has magic and bends the poker to fight back, but after a few moves, Maul manages to stab her and knock her out. Back to Kurian, he brings Alina to his quarters, but doesn't tell him about Maul. They start kissing and things heat up, but they are interrupted when a guard comes to inform Kurgan of the attack. As soon as he's gone, a hidden doorway opens and Brar walks in. She pulls Alina into a secret tunnel, saying she needs to leave the palace before she becomes a slave. Bagger explains that Kurian doesn't want to eliminate the Fold. He wants to expand it and use it as a weapon. Kurian isn't just any Jisha. He's the original black heretic who created the Fold and transformed humans into the Vulkar. Alina refuses to believe it until Brar begins controlling the shadows, revealing she's Kurian's mother. Furious, Alina wants to fight against Kurian, but Bulgur points out she isn't strong enough yet and sends her to hide in the food storage where she'll be guarded by some Jisha that are loyal to her. Alina pretends to follow her instructions, but leaves the palace because she's tired of being someone's puppet. She hides inside a carriage and is seen by Jesper, who stole that carriage by getting dirty with the stable boy. Nearby, Kurian discovers that Alina is gone and goes looking for Maul, but Bulgur tells him he's dead, thinking her soldier killed him. However, Maul is actually behind a tree, hearing the conversation. Afterward, Kurian and Zoya interrogate the conductor. He tries to blame it all on Cass, but Krein knows that the conductor has ties to the rebellion and kills him with shadows. Meanwhile, Inaj and Cass are noticed by a fire Jisha at the party, so they split and try to lose him. The Jisha follows them into a chapel and Cass uses the chance to surprise him from behind, quickly breaking his hand to stop him from doing magic. However, this Jisha only needs one hand, but before he can throw a fireball, Inaj kills him by throwing a dagger at his head. More guards are coming, so the duo rushes outside to reunite with Jesper, who tells them he's got the Sun Summoner. As they leave in the carriage, moments later, Alina uses her magic to open the trunk of the carriage and finds the trio waiting for her. They offer her safe passage through the Fold to West Rifka, but Alina doesn't trust them and uses her powers to startle them. Inaj isn't too affected, but she still lets Alina go. As she walks around town, Alina bumps into two soldiers who recognize her as she and start harassing her. So, she punches one and blinds the other with her magic before running away. After going through a few narrow alleys, she makes it to the woods where she finally reunites with Maul. They keep running until they're far enough from the soldiers and finally understand they haven't been receiving each other's letters. Maul also tells her about the stag and Alina realizes Kurgan stole the drawing from her journal, confirming Bulgur's story. After sharing a hug, they keep moving and find shelter for the night. Since the cold is awful, Alina creates a ball of light to keep them warm. The next morning, as Alina tends to Mal's wound, Alina decides that she wants to go after the stag and amplify her power so that she can defeat Kurian. In town, Kurian and his men find the stolen carriage. But when they open it, a small explosive goes off. This alerts Kaz's group that they've been found, so they split up to divide the Jisha army. The sister of the dead Fire Jisha recognizes Nig's knife and immediately begins shooting flames for revenge, only to accidentally hit civilians instead. Jesper hides in a laundry shop, but he's followed by a hot trender who can hear his heartbeat. Still hiding, Jesper starts shooting the Jisha, always making the bullets hit the guy in the same exact spot. Eventually, his bulletproof clothing wears off and the bullet bruises the Jisha, so Jesper uses the chance to knock him out. On the street, Inaj attacks the Fire Jisha with her blades and has to move fast to dodge the flame shot at her. Inaj manages to hide and surprises the Jisha with her blade, stabbing her in a non-lethal spot because she doesn't want to kill again. However, when the Jisha swears to kill every person Inaj loves, she has no choice but to end her. Nearby, Zoe goes after Cass, moving the crowd with her wind powers only to discover that CZ gave his clothes to another guy. However, Cass is still cornered by Kurian, who begins filling the alley with shadows. Tells him that Alina fled by her own choice and throws a small explosive as a misdirection, managing to escape. Once Cass's team manages to regroup, they steal Kurian's carriage by quickly knocking out the soldier inside. Krein doesn't want to go after them because Alina is his priority. So, Davy points out that Jenny gave Alina a ring made of a rare metal not native to Rifka. If Davy gets within 1 mile of her, he'll be able to sense it. So, they use the skull to start tracking her. They also hear from the soldiers defeated by Alina that a tracker asked for her, which makes Kurian realize she'll be going after the stag. Meanwhile, the ship carrying Na has been destroyed by a storm. She swims to hold on to some debris and finds an unconscious Macius, the soldier that captured her. He's freezing to death, so Nenna uses her Heartrender powers to speed up his heart rate and get his blood flowing. When he wakes up, he falls into the water as he calls Nenna an evil witch, but he realizes they need to cooperate to survive and climbs back on the debris. Noel will keep his heart pumping while he swims them to safety. Eventually, they reach the shore and go looking for shelter in the mountains. They find an empty cabin and Noel takes off her wet clothes to cover her body with furs, but Macius refuses to do the same because he sees it as being vulnerable for a witch. Noel changes his mind by pointing out he'll die frozen and he joins her in bed so they can share body heat. The next morning, they start traveling through the mountains and Nenna accidentally falls through thin ice, but Macius surprises her by catching her just in time and saving her. Then a flashback shows a younger Cryon hundreds of years ago riding through the woods until he arrives at a cabin to reunite with Hilo Luda. They begin to pack up to go on the run, but soon the cabin is surrounded by soldiers who want to arrest them for training witches in secret. Kirigan pretends to surrender and the soldiers shoot him with arrows while Luda heals him from inside. He's hoping to convince them that he's a god, but the soldier searches the house and finds Luda, who immediately gets stabbed. Furious, Kirigan kills all the men with his shadow magic. Then he carries Luda on a horse until he finds the Jisha Sanctuary, which is the building that eventually became the palace. Unfortunately, it's too late for Hilo to save Luda. Then Curian tries to warn Bra that the king is coming after the Jish to kill them all. And Bra blames him for it, pointing out he showed too much of his power and scared the king. She wants them to escape together, but Kirigan refuses and wants to form his own Jisha army following the notes left by his grandfather, the Bonesmith. Ignoring his mother's warnings about the dangers of such magic, Kirigan finds the Bonesmith's journal and recites a spell that turns his veins black and makes him more powerful. At that moment, a bunch of soldiers surround the sanctuary. So, Kirigan goes out and shocks them with his improved shadow magic. As he kills them, he loses control and expels a bunch of black smoke, which creates the Fold, transforming all the people there into Volker. The only survivor is Baghra, so Kirigan picks her up and runs away. In the present, Elena and Maul finally find the stag in the forest. Elena can't bring herself to kill it, so instead she approaches the creature and touches its nose, causing her to glow. Suddenly, the stag gets shot and Elena is knocked down as Kirigan's troops show up. Maul manages to shoot a soldier down, but before he can do more, Soi uses her wind magic to stop him. The soldier recovers and reveals to be a Heartrender who shoots Maul and starts torturing him with magic. Elena cuts in and knocks everyone down with her magic before rushing to Mal's side. At that moment, Cryon arrives and tries to use his magic to finish the stag. So Elena runs to create a shield around the creature and Maul. However, Curian points out that Maul will die soon. So he promises that he'll have his healer save Maul if she gives him the stag.